So it got me thinking, how can we apply this to the new hybrid situation? How can we apply this kind of methodology or technique to incentivizing, encouraging people to get back to the office? We know that remote working has been hugely well received, let's say. It's such a strong package, isn't it? So we do know that one thing that's missing from working from home, from remote work, is the relational side of being in a team, being in a business. So that's why it's absolutely great to try and get people back into the office. How can we use these defining moments? What could a defining moment look like in a hybrid situation back in the office?
Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, James.
Fantastic to have you here. I have followed your stuff online for a while now, and you run a company called Playfully.
Yes.
And some of the things that you've been posting out, I think, really resonated with me, where you're talking about the workplace experience. That's something that, I write about in my company.
Yeah.
And you talked about this concept of defining moments. So that's where I wanted to start today. Tell me,
Lovely.
I guess, what a moment is
and
why they're important.
Okay, great question to start with. So defining moments come from a fantastic book that I can really recommend called The Power of Moments. I've got a copy here. There we go. Nice sound effects for your listeners there. The Power of Moments is written by Chip and Dan Heath. I'm assuming they're brothers, otherwise they just coincidentally got the same surname. I'm pretty sure that they're brothers. Now, a defining moment is a short experience or event that is both memorable and meaningful. In essence, they are moments that matter, moments that you can look back on in your life that really stand out to you. Okay? So if you think about your life generally, you have a lot of defining moments without even having to do anything. They're kind of predefined. I'm thinking about key birthdays. I'm thinking about marriage. I'm thinking about deaths in the family. I'm thinking about promotions. These are all defining moments that somehow are precious and memorable to you. The great thing is that we can actually create and engineer our own defining moments. And these are moments that are going to be elevating the everyday. It's something special, right? So if you think about possibilities in your week, your month, your year, whether it's personal or in the office to do with work, you can actually create these defining moments, okay? And there's 4 ways that we can create these defining moments. The first one is through elevation. So you elevate an everyday activity. You add some novelty. You add some surprise. The second way you'd create a defining moment is through insight. That would be a personal reflection or a realization. It could be, wow, I really love what I'm doing, let's say, as a hobby, and I really want to do something like that at work, a bit like I had with my improvisations theatre. Another way is through connection. This is a shared social experience of people together, okay? And that creates this kind of defining moment for you. So the fourth one is pride. And this is kind of like a personal achievement. It could be a team achievement as well. It could be completing the marathon for the first time, or it could be completing a project as a team. So they're the 4 ways that you can actually create defining moments. And I've got a great case study, a great reference about elevation. In LA, there is a hotel called the Magic Castle Hotel. Okay? Off the face of it, this looks like a pretty average standard hotel. It's a converted 2-story residential complex, converted to a hotel. The interiors and the decor look pretty standard, quite basic. And the pool they have is on the small side. They have worked out that not all the details need to be perfect, because this is one of the top-rated hotels in the area. And the reason why, firstly, is great service. Secondly, is they have created something, they've created a defining moment for people, and it's called the Popsicle Hotline. Now picture this, James. You're on holiday there, you're staying at the Magic Castle Hotel. You're in the pool, it's rather on the small side. You're feeling hot and sweaty. You look across to the other side of the pool, and you notice a vintage red telephone. Seems a bit strange, right? Your curiosity leads you to go over and you pick up the phone and somebody answers, "Hello, Popsicle Hotline." Within a couple of minutes, you are being brought a popsicle, an ice pop, whatever you want to call it. Not only do they just bring it to you, they bring it to you on a silver tray. The person's wearing white gloves and they offer you this popsicle for free. Now, in terms of your stay at this place, that is very much a great example of a defining moment.
Because it's surprising.
It's surprising, it's novel. And one good thing to mention is that there's been research done on this, on defining moments, experiences, events. And people tend to remember two things. The first thing they remember is the peak moment, which is the best moment or the worst moment, and also the end moment, the close of something. So whether you're thinking in terms of a meeting, a party, an event, you can start creating and designing your event or experience, knowing this in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I think some of these ideas and concepts around moments, and I would definitely read the book. To bring this into the context of the workplace, and I feel especially this is such a timely moment, right? Because of what's been happening for the last 3 years. We've now getting into this period where we're not just working remotely. People are back in the office as well. We've got this hybrid experience. I'm sure in the work you're doing, you're finding actually that's putting pressure on teams, and it's hard for them to connect and be creative and productive. A lot of people who run workplaces, who are responsible for them, are struggling with these thoughts, trying maybe to get people back to the office or whatever. What can they take away from this? Like, it's not just about beanbags, free breakfasts, and ping pong tables, is it?
Correct.
It's like, how should they be thinking about this?
So it got me thinking, how can we apply this to the new hybrid situation? How can we apply this kind of methodology or technique to incentivizing, encouraging people to get back to the office? We know that remote working has been hugely well received, let's say. It's such a strong package, isn't it? So we do know that one thing that's missing from working from home, from remote work, is the relational side of being in a team, being in a business. So that's why it's absolutely great to try and get people back into the office. How can we use these defining moments? What could a defining moment look like in a hybrid situation back in the office? What you need to do is think of, what are the key moments, the key transitions in a working day? What would they look like? Maybe when you arrive to the office. Lunch is a key potential, right? Fika break, leaving the office. And I also said out jokingly, when you go to the toilet. Okay. These are all kind of little moments where you could potentially elevate. So I don't know if you've seen the guy, Troy Hawk.
Is the greeter.
He's the greeter.
Yes.
He's from the Greeters Guild.
Amazing, yeah.
And this is what I was thinking. You could do something like that. People arrive to the office. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you had someone welcoming you there? James, welcome back to the office. You look great. Loving your newly sun-kissed tan. The shoes are looking great. You're paying people compliments. You're making people feel really good about being back in the office. You're basically saying, I see you. You're back. You're a human. You're here. Welcome. That was one example.
Sure.
In your own way. Maybe it's something as simple as playing a certain piece of music. It could be, I don't know, somebody doing just something different rather than the normal, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, maybe the start or the close of a meeting, like you said, playing some music, asking people to do something different.
Yes, yeah. So also, if you think in a meeting context, meetings are pretty standardized.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way that you start your meeting with your team, your weekly or monthly meeting that actually has some value and meaning to you. How would you finish a meeting? Would you use a ritual? How would you say goodbye to people at the end of the day? I've seen a concept where there's a company and they have a wall. You can call it a wall of appreciation or gratitude. And during the day, you'd simply write a little note, write a little sticky note, put it on this wall, and before you leave the office, you just go to the wall, have a little read. It's going to fill you with good vibes. You're going to get a lot of love from that. What a nice way to finish your working day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we write a lot about technology and its application in buildings and workplaces, and I suppose there is a lot of focus on that. But I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I suppose some people think, well, actually, kind of this stuff talking about moments, talking about these kind of more softer subjects, right? But you can use technology to create them, can't you? I mean, even like some workplace experience apps they have, you can share content on there. Maybe it's even a surprising moment is sharing some interesting content that's different and surprising, and maybe even like a voucher or something, one free pass to get something when you come in the office, something like that.
Sure, I think mix it up. Use the technology you've got. Use the basics as well. Both work equally good,
yeah,
I would say.
Exactly.
But I think the reason why I'm thinking we do this is because we clearly know we're missing the human side, the relational side, working from home. We can incentivize people into the office. What are the benefits? Well, people are going to feel good. People are going to feel more connected with each other. Well-being of people is going to be improved. People's feeling of belonging. I think that's very important in a workplace. Having this feeling of, I belong here. I want to come here. I feel part of this company. I feel part of this mission. I understand the core values. And I think all of these defining moments help to achieve that. They help people feel better, feel more grounded, more connected. And these kind of benefits are only going to be beneficial for the way people work together, and therefore your productivity and your efficiency.
I absolutely agree. Very good point. I was thinking also about flipping this a little bit.
Okay.
Right? So we've talked about sort of the experience of, in work being in person. But also, we've spent a lot of time virtually, right? Being in virtual meetings, being remote. What is it we can take from those experiences, right? Those moments, and bring into the office as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something I've been thinking about actually, because we've had this amazing experience now, and I think there's still a feeling that virtual meetings, people feel not another virtual meeting kind of thing. But it's actually been educational for us, and we've learned a lot through this. I would say the first thing to think about is it kind of questions, what's the format of a meeting now? What would the format of a meeting look like being in an office? Maybe you don't need a typical meeting room with table and chairs. What about if we took that table away? What about if we took the chairs away? What about if we talked about more of a campfire setup where people were sitting around in a circle together? I think this is the bigger question, actually. Why do we have meetings? How are they going to look together in person? But if I think of the technicalities of virtual meetings, I've found that virtual meetings have been very good in terms of being more inclusive, right? And what I mean by that is I find it's easier to get participation from the whole group if I'm doing something online, because we've got other ways and means of collecting information, of collecting feedback, of collecting perspectives and ideas. We're talking polls, we're talking chat, we're talking getting into breakout rooms. So in a way, I feel the virtual meeting has leveled the playing field. All of a sudden, everyone is just the same size square on the screen.
Yeah. Do you think it's less intimidating then in that, like, because if people are face to face in person, they might be don't feel like they can ask a specific question in that moment. They're nervous about doing it.
I'd say my view is generally that's the case, that online meetings maybe feel less intimidating, but I think each format has its own challenges and struggles. Some people have also said to me, I find it really difficult speaking out on a Zoom call, for example, because the queue isn't there for you to come in. You kind of have to take a bit more space. Unless someone says, James, let's hear your perspective, to kind of just initiate and be proactive, it's almost like you're kind of breaking through everyone. So, it is one of the challenges online is obviously with the non-verbal communication, the body language. I mean, I think we've all been in that position where we've been holding a meeting, a workshop, whatever, and you feel you're not seeing anyone's response. Okay? It could just be a wall of silence. It could be crickets. And I've noticed that actually to give non-verbal cues is so important, whether that's shaking your head, whether that's kind of giving some kind of gestures on screen to say, I'm listening, I'm following you, I'm with you. So that's also something I think we can take into in person, is to being more present and not just focusing on the verbal side of things, the body language, the non-verbal side of things, and showing appreciation or understanding of someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, they do talk about that being a massive part of communication, isn't it? Body language, like 70% more of actually how we communicate in person.
That's it. Yeah. I think the statistics show it's this very high percentage, and it's so true. There's so many other clues and cues that we can use in our body. And yeah, one thing that I've got into a lot recently is how to be a great presenter, how to deliver a great pitch, a great speech. And so much of it is focused on body language, on functional gesturing. And these are all things that we can apply both to online and being back in person.
Yeah.
But I can also say that one thing that I've been reflecting on as well, something we've probably missed actually during this period of working from home, is the commute.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. The commute is something that, when you think about it, a lot of people will probably say, I'm so glad I'm not doing my commute anymore. And it's all relative, right? If you're commuting in an hour a day, an hour back, it can be quite stressful. And you can think, thank goodness I can work from home and I can skip that period of time, and it's more time with loved ones and more time potentially working or whatever, or doing something good for yourself, whatever. But the commute is really useful in that it's a transitionary period between home and work and home. And I've found that, I've been speaking to some people about this, that period of time has been really useful to kind of set expectations, to plan, to reflect. And we're not getting that when we're working from home. So my recommendation has been, create your own kind of remote commute, or even create a virtual commute. And this is something I do in my workshops and sessions, that people who are joining, I might give them 2 to 3 minutes to have their virtual commute, just this period of landing and tuning in and establishing, okay, where are we now? What's the next meeting? And also kind of from practically when you're working from home, give yourself your own commute, whether that's taking a walk each morning, getting yourself to the gym. It could also be just having some time to read or reflect. It could be to write a poem. Create your own little daily practice that gives you that space and time before you get into your work.
I mean, these physical cues are really powerful, aren't they? I mean, we are creatures of habit, right? We even though we don't think it, like we have these very specific actions which create like a feeling in us. Perhaps, chemically even, that change the way we feel, like even the way that we hold ourselves, or, different poses we have, right?
Oh, yes.
All like actually have more of an impact than we think. So
absolutely,
creating those, and before a meeting or before you start work, having these kind of rituals, it's quite powerful, isn't it? Yeah,
I mean, I'm just thinking now in terms of kind of public speaking and presenting, one of the little tips and tricks you can learn before you go on stage is to power pose. So you're standing with your arms outstretched as far as you can in this kind of power pose position. Do it for a minute or two, and it really creates that effect. It actually helps to build the testosterone in your body, and you're going to feel more energized going onto stage. But it's absolutely, we can think of how we can do this throughout our days to put ourselves in a better position and improve our well-being.
One thing I wanted to ask as well, I mean, and this is really directly related to your business, right? Playfully, play, like it is something that is, quite is an like interesting subject, and I mentioned before, I think that it's something which isn't associated with work, right? We try and tend to think, as a society, work is like being professional, right? And we don't associate play with being professional. But you have a completely different take on it. Like, I mean, what do you say?
I do, and this is something I've completely experienced. I mean, play as a definition is doing something which doesn't necessarily have an end objective or goal. You're kind of doing it for the fun of it, you could say. I think that's true, but I don't see play and work being opposites. They're not mutually exclusive. I think when we talk about play in the workplace, I tend to use other words. I might use creativity or imagination or discovery. And all of these elements are absolutely needed in our workplace, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, creativity. Most people need to be creative. A lot of people think, oh, I can't be creative. But everything is relative, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So what I tend to do is I try to, when I'm speaking to companies, look at your day. Where could you potentially put in some moments for play? Where does that make sense? Okay, you can develop your own playful practice at work. There could be some key times after lunch, fika break, or whatever. But there are some opportunities, and it's just carving out a little bit of time, and you'll see the benefits.
Yeah, it's such an interesting topic. Look, Adam, it's been awesome having you come and talk to us, and it's such a fascinating subject. So, I mean, if they want to find out more about yourself or Playfully, where can they do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My name's Adam Sismey. You can look on my website, playfully.se. They're the two main channels that I'm operating on right now.
Good stuff. Look, thanks again. Really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks so much, James. Take care.
Bye for now.